Hey everybody, it's Michelle and we're going to start with a tutorial. Now there's a couple things I want to start with first. We are going to be using the Acrylic Tag Album. This is new from Country Craft Creations. It is just absolutely a beautiful acrylic cover set, and it comes with the binder rings to go with it. So that's how we're going to bind it, and you can do the album either vertical like this, or we can do it horizontal and open it like this. I'm going to use it horizontal today. So because of that, our album will be 7 by 5, and we're going to make 5 very interactive pages to go with it. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do first is I didn't want to use the album cover itself as a template. So what I ended up doing was grabbing a piece of chipboard and creating a template. And we only need the template for the corner here and for the hole where we're going to punch our pages, and that's it. So that's why it doesn't go the full length of the album cover, and we're going to do the album cover last, and there's a reason why we're going to do that. And so just take your album covers, put them off to the side, and we will take care of that at the very tail end of the tutorial. So I'm going to get those out of the way. So again, I just grabbed a piece of chipboard to make the template. Now you can use cardstock, you can use, whatever you want, and I just measured it to be the width, and then I drew the angles and then cut them off, and then I drew the circle through the hole on the cover. And then because I used chipboard, I used a heavy-duty 1/4 inch punch to do that. Now you don't need to have a heavy-duty 1/4 inch punch if you don't have one. It's fine. You can use a piece of cardstock and create a template, so it's not that big of a deal. The corners, if you look at this, they're 1 inch. So if you had a square piece and you measured 1 inch in and 1 inch down and cut that angle, you would have that angle. And also, if you're using cardstock to make your template, and the reason I'm doing that is so I don't have to measure again. I can just measure it on this and then just be done with it. A regular paper 1/4 inch punch will punch through regular cardstock. So you can just have a regular desk 1/4 inch punch. I think that, and I didn't try it, but I'm pretty sure that the 3/8 inch hole punch will work. But I think that with using book rings, a little bit bigger hole just makes it turn better. So I just went with that. And the other thing is that I did go with it because the circle, the hole in the acrylic album is also 1/4 inch. So I just wanted to match it up. So I hope that makes sense. So we're going to get started. We're going to work on the pages first, and then we're going to get into the cover. So I made my template and I got it ready to go. And then we're going to start on page 1. Now I'm using the Ballerina Pink 100-pound cardstock for this, and it's a great cardstock, and it is nice and heavy, but it works great for this. So we're going to make a couple interactive pages. As far as this one here will be the same as page 5. It will open up, and then we're going to make some pocket pages with a couple of the pages as well with this, and then we're going to put interactions on top of them. So here's what we're going to do. So we're going to start with page 1. This is the same as page 5. I've already made the one for page 5, so I'll show you this one, and then we'll just repeat that process for that page. Okay, so to get started, we're going to grab our scoreboard, and you're going to need 2 pieces of cardstock for this page. So one is 7 by 5, the other one is 7.5 by 5. And for the 7.5, we're going to just need to make 1 score on this. And because the cardstock is 100-pound, I feel a little more comfy using a metal tipped bone folder or score tool, I should say. So I just run it down a couple of times. I'm trying to be kind of gentle. I don't want it to go too crazy, but I do run a couple of passes over it just to make sure that this cardstock is scored. That's just kind of my MO. So again, this is 7.5 by 5, and I scored it at 7. So we'll have this 1/2 inch piece here. And then what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and take this, and I'm going to grab my scissors here, and we're going to miter that 1/2 inch. Let me get those little chunkies out of the way. And then we're going to fold and burnish. And I'm going to use my regular bone folder for the burnishing. Okay. one I always use, just like that. All right. Then what we're going to do is just attach these. So we're just going to put glue here and we're going to attach it just like that. Okay. So I'm going to grab my art glitter glue. Oh goodness, come on now. Maybe I need to do a pin in it. Hold on a sec. One thing I didn't get ready before my tutorial, so I always got to forget something, right? All right, so I'm just going to put glue on here. And then I'm just going to line this up against the edge of my scoreboard and lay that down. Just make sure everything matches, okay? Okay, this is going to create a page that opens up here, okay? And this is going to make a lot of sense here in just a second, because you're probably wondering, how am I going to get that around the book ring? And I do have a plan. I do have a plan. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, and you can do it one of two ways. You can either draw a line and then cut it, or you can just whack it, and that's one of the reasons why I made the template, so that I could just hold it nice and steady, make sure all my edges match, and then I can just whack it off, okay? So that is how I created my pages. Now I'm not going to punch the hole yet because we're going to put pattern papers on, but that is what we should have right now. And again, this is the same for pages 1 and 5. So now I've picked out my papers, okay? So on the front of this, I'm going to use the little love bugs here, and then on the back, we're going to use this floral, okay? Now these papers are cut an 1/8 inch smaller than this. So I cut these at 6 7/8 wide by 4 7/8 tall, okay? And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack them again. So I'm just going to put them, I have the front here. I want the back to be the roses, okay? So I'm going to put those together just like that, making sure I've got everything in alignment. Now you can do these one at a time as well. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up. Now I want you to notice something. So I'm going to line this up at this edge and the top edge. You're going to notice that it hangs off a little bit, and that's okay because these are cut smaller, okay? So again, to use the same angle, I am just going to whack it, okay? Then, you like my terms, I'm going to whack it. Okay, been watching too many gangster movies, I think. Here we go. So I'm going to just line those up again, okay? I'm going to make sure that this edge now is lined up and this edge here is lined up. I'm going to hold it real steady. Now you can use clamps if you want, okay? And I'm just going to do that, okay? We'll put those off to the side, and then I'll show you. That should get perfectly cut to put on those pages, okay? So we have the one for the front, we have the one for the back. Now we got to do the insides, okay? So for the insides, I chose to have these papers, okay? So it doesn't matter which side you want, but I wanted to kind of have a little bit of contrast on the inside. So again, I think what I'll do is do this. So I'm going to lay them down. I'm going to bring that back up because we're going to have to whack these again, right? So I'm just going to put this down. We're going to repeat the process, and I hope this makes sense. I'm just going to cut that off there. And then I'm going to line it up again on the other side, okay? And you can see I've scooched that down, so now it's on the other side and it's flush here and flush here. All right, and we've got that. So that's going to cover the inside, okay? So we'll have the front of page 1, the back of page 1, and then we have the insides. All right, so really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and glue these down, and then I'll come back. I'll show you the next part of page 1. So I have put the pattern paper on. So here's the front of page 1 again, the back. And then I do want to show you that I did put the papers on the inside, and then I did do some mats. So the mats that I'm using here, the pink, this dark pink, is from the coordinating solids that came with this Mine from Carta Bella collection. So these are the coordinating solids that I did receive. And then the black here is our Artisan 65-pound paper. Now I did use black because there is a lot of black accents in this paper and I thought it looked really pretty. So that's why I chose that. It's 65 pound. It's perfect for doing mats. And so let me give you some measurements here. So the pink, I used 2 squares that are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and then the black is 4 by 4. So you can put your picture in here. I did do, so like the pattern papers are cut for the pages an 1/8 inch smaller, but for the matting I wanted some more colors, so that's why I went down 1/4 inch in size. So again, these 2 mats are 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and the black is 4 by 4. So I just glued them, I just centered them on the bottoms and on the inside because I've got some ideas of what I want to do here. But we also now need to punch our holes. Okay, so I'm going to close this up. I'm going to again grab my template here, and then I'm going to just put it down here and then grab my pencil, and I'm going to go in that circle, and I'm going to color that circle in where I want to punch. Okay, then I'm going to grab my hole punch here and line that up and punch that out. Okay, so now I have my hole punch. Now this is a fold out page, so we need to make sure that it folds out, and we don't want to have to undo our ring in order to do that. So what I'm going to do is on this front page, not the back page, on the front page only, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to go right up the middle of that hole, and I'm going to make a very careful slit. Now you can use a ruler and a straight edge if you would like, but you're just going to cut a slit. So if you're familiar with like disc albums, that's kind of the same concept. So that will go around the disc. It won't be very noticeable once you get it on the disc, but you'll be able to pop this over that ring. Okay, and if you watch my walkthrough, I demonstrated that. It works really good, and we're going to demonstrate that too when we bind this all together in this tutorial. So that's how you're going to do the front of page, the front of page 1. Okay, so the back, we're going to leave that solid. We're not going to cut that one. We don't need to. We just need a way to open this up, and that's how that's going to be closed. Okay, so then what we're going to do is work on the front of page 1. We've got an interaction. We're going to do a booklet, and we're going to need, in my design team package, I did get some really beautiful 1/8 inch ribbon that's black. So what I did with the ribbon was I cut it into 3 complete pieces. So these are roughly 2 feet long each. I got 2 yards of it, so I cut them into 3 lengths of 2 feet long. Okay, so we're going to need 3 of those for the entire album. We'll use 1 right now. We're going to need some more photo mats. So again, I cut these photo mats at 4 by 4, and we will need a total of 6 of those. We're going to need some of the pink ballerina cardstock. I got 2 pieces that are 8.5 by 4 1/4. So you need 2 of those, and then you need 1 piece that is 1 inch by 4 1/4. Then I did some matting with this. This is going to go on the front of the album. So this piece here measures 4 by 4, and then I took a 4 by 4 cut apart that I liked, and I trimmed it down. So I took an 1/8 inch off every side, so an 1/8 inch off all 4 sides to make it 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. So that will be matted on the back side with the Tonic gold paper that I received in my package. Okay, so now that we have all of those pieces, let's get our scoreboard here, and there's only a couple really simple scores to do. We're going to take the 8.5 by 4 1/4, put the 8.5 at the top. We're going to score at 4 1/4. And again, I'm going to make a couple passes, and I'm using my metal scoring tool because I just think it works better on this paper. So you're going to do that with both of those. And then what you're going to do is take your 1 by 4 1/4 inch piece. This is going to be a hinge, and we're going to score down the middle at half. Okay, so on the 1, we're going to score at half. Okay, and again, a couple passes. I've already kind of pre-scored these, so if you don't see me doing a couple passes on camera, that's why. trying to, you know, help the tutorial, I guess. So first thing to do is fold and burnish our score lines here, okay? Like so. Make our 2 little pages, and then we got this guy. So we can fold and burnish our little hinge. And then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to just miter that. Make our little triangles fly all over the place. 100-pound cardstock, and it does fly. It does fly. I'll find pieces all over the place when I get done with this. Okay, so we're just going to connect these. So I'm going to turn them so that the folded edges are on the inside, and then just grab my little hinge, put some glue on it, and I'm going to glue that down right there. Make sure I don't get glue all over the place. Okay. Like so. Okay. We'll put glue on the other side and then just attach these booklets. So, easy way to do it is just line them up using your table, pinch them together. Just make sure the glue doesn't come out where you don't want it, right? Open it up, burnish that down, okay? So we have that. And then the black photo mats, which I will do off camera, will go on all of the pages, okay? The back page, so you'll have these 2 here. The back part of this booklet will be glued down, so we don't need one back there, okay? So we're back to the front, and we've got 2 more that'll go in here, so I'll just pop those in there for now. Now we can put our cover piece on it. So it says, "My heart is wherever you are." We're going to glue this down. Now, a couple things. The Tonic Mirror card is gorgeous. It is gorgeous, but it is slippery, so you have to take an extra little minute when you glue this down and make sure it doesn't shift, okay? That's one thing I wanted to tell you. And then make sure you wipe up that glue quickly off that mirror, okay? I'm going around kind of carefully, and I'm trying not to moosh it around too much because I don't want it, because it will slide for a second. The art glitter glue will catch, but it just does take an extra little minute to do that, okay? So I wanted to share that with you on this first one so that you know on the rest of them, because I am going to use this mirror card a lot for some matting, okay? So we have our front piece. Isn't that cute? And then that'll just go right on the front of this booklet. And again, all of these increments here are 1/4 of an inch down for my matting. But the pages on the tags themselves are 1/8 of an inch smaller, okay? So then I have a little bit more border, which is what I wanted. I just wanted a little more color, okay? So again, the back side can be a little slick too on that mirror card, so just take your time burnishing that down. Make sure the glue doesn't come out, all right? And then once you do that, you can kind of burnish that down, and it'll work really well, okay? All right, so we have our booklet. Now all we need to do is put our tie on this booklet. I'm lining this up on my mat, and I'm going to use kind of the center here. This black line as my guide. If you do with the ruler, you will line it up at 2 1/8, okay? So 2 1/8 is that black line right there. I'm just kind of lining this up on my grid, okay? Let's do that again. Okay, so I'm lining this up on my grid, and if we line it up, the center point is at 2 1/8, so I've kind of got this where I want it. I'm going to put a little piece of score tape here, okay? tore off just a little too much on that one. So there we go. Take that off, and then I'm going to find the center of my ribbon, which is about here, and I'm going to lay that down. Okay, and that is going to be for the back, and for the back of this to wrap around and do the closure. Okay, so I'm going to put this, I'm going to try and center this between this point here and this point here, and the center, it's 6 inches that way. And so I'm just looking at my grid on my mat here, which what that means is about 7/8 inch from the end. Okay, if I'm looking at my mat and I'm looking at these lines here, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So I'm gonna just kind of eyeball center that, and I'm gonna put glue on the back and just glue that down, and then that'll be the booklet. I will go back and I will glue those mats in later, but I'll have them in there. Okay, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna open this up carefully because I know I have all these loose bits in here, and I'm just gonna glue that down like so. Okay, that will be the booklet for the front of the page. Okay, so right now what we've got is the booklet. We have the mats on the inside. I'm just gonna, if I can get my fingers to work, I will tie this bow and we will work on the back side. Okay, like so. Okay, so that'll be the front. Okay, then let's work on the back of page 1. All right, so for the back of page 1, we're going to make one of my stacked waterfalls because I have to make one of my stacked waterfalls. So what we're going to do is take a couple pieces of this beautiful cardstock and we're going to cut them. You need 2 of them, 2 pieces. One is 10 by 4 1/4. One is 9 by 4 1/4. And then we are going to need a piece for the closure that is 4 1/4 by 2. And then we will need a magnet. Now I haven't glued those down yet. They're just in place so that I can have it when I'm ready. So this is 4 1/4 by 2. On the 4 1/4, we're going to score at 1/2, okay, to make that closure. All right, and let me just take those magnets off for a second, and then we're going to make an angle cut because, you know, we have angles in the album. So I'm going to use my little tag punch. You can use any tag punch you want. I'm going to use the larger of the cuts, and we'll go ahead and punch those. There we go. And then we'll set this off to the side, and then we're going to take our pieces and we're going to score them both 4 1/4 inches. Okay, so again, do a couple passes. I've already kind of pre-scored, and then turn it, score at 4 1/4. So then you take the next one, which is the 10-inch piece, you score at 4 1/4, and then you turn it and you score at 4 1/4. Okay, we're done with that. So then what we'll do is we're going to fold and burnish our pieces. Get this out of the way. Okay, so these will have 1/2-inch gussets and really nice pages. We're going to get quite a few pages out of this. All right. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take the bigger piece. This is the 10-inch piece, and I'm going to just line this up on my grid here, and I'm using the black line here, and I'm lining it up down here. So I'm using that black line to go up and, you know, line up that score line. And we're going to take this smaller piece with the 1/2-inch kind of spine. We're going to fold that, and then we're going to take some glue and put some glue on that 1/2-inch piece. And then I'm going to glue this a 1/2 inch away from that score line and make sure that everything is nice and flush and even over here. Okay, so we'll have a 1/2 inch between this page and then this page we just laid down. Okay, we're gonna open that up, squish that, burnish that, make sure we don't have any glue seeping out. All right, like so. Okay, and then, so there's that, it's done. Then what we're going to do is take this piece here, and you don't have to miter that 1/2 inch tab. Okay, but what we're going to do is take this, and then we're going to line that, oops, the other way. We're going to line that up and center it and glue it to the back page. Let's do it like this. Okay, so turn your piece over. Okay, here's your tag. We're going to line this up so the center is 2 1/8 from the center point. Okay, we're going to put some glue on here. Now when we lay this down, it's going to be centered at the 1 inch from the center line. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue here. I'm not going to go too close to the score. I don't want it to seep into my pages here. And I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to make sure that score is at the edge of the page. Okay, and then once I do that, before it sets, I'm going to fold that over just to make sure that I've got it right. Okay, and that it folds over nicely with the score. Okay, done. Okay, open that up, make sure there's no, and then there you go. So then all we have to do now is set our magnets. So I'm going to take the one and open this up. Oh, you know what I was going to do? This is what I was going to do. I was going to do it so that it was on the underside. Okay, so when it closes like this, and the reason why I'm going to do that is because when I put this piece on top, I don't want to cover it up with this. Okay, I want it to show. So we're going to set this like so. So I'm going to glue this here, and I'm going to glue it kind of, I don't know, about 3/8 inch or so from the edge of that tag. Okay, then we'll stick this guy on, take this tape off. All right, and then we're going to lay this down, the first page down, and take that off. Okay, so our magnet is set. So then this will go over top, and when this closes, this will be the front page, but we won't be covering up this at all. Okay, then you will need the photo mats. So again, these are all 4x4 again, so those will cover everything here, like so. And then I do have pieces to cover our little tag. Okay, so these pieces of paper, just so you know, again, they're an 1/8 inch smaller than this tag piece. So they're 3 5/8 by 1 7/8. And then again, I use the same tag punch to create the shape. Okay, so those are going to go here and here. So then when you open it up, that's what you're going to have. Okay, so what I'm going to do, you need 6 of these black photo mats. Again, I'm just going to pop these in here for your pages. Okay, like so. And then you will need, for the 3/8 inch gussets, or for the 1/2 inch gussets, I should say, you're going to need 3 pieces of paper, and I just got these out of scrap. They're 3/8 inches by 4 inches, and the reason why they're 4 inches is because I want them to be the same height as the photo mats. Okay, so you will need 3 of those all together. Now I will glue all of this down later for you to see, but right now I'm just going to kind of pop it all in there. This piece will glue on the top. I will glue that down. On the cover, and then you can see how pretty this is going to look. All right. Now we'll go back through and I will glue everything down. Okay, but that's what you'll have. Okay, each page will have a black photo mat. The photo mats are 4x4. The gold is 4x4. And this, again, I cut down to 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 by cutting 1/8 of an inch off each side of the 4x4 cut apart, okay? Then the only thing you have to do now is you need to glue it down onto your book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line it up so that it's pretty even on this side, kind of eyeballing it, but I'm going to kind of center it on this side, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. And I'm going to glue the whole entire back side down. So sometimes I don't do this, but because of the way I did the closure, I'm gluing that whole back page down. Otherwise, you could have another page back there. And then again, I'm just going to kind of eyeball center this and glue that down. Okay. I'm going to be careful since none of these are glued down yet. I'm going to make sure that that is down. Okay. Stick our tags in there. We'll stick this in here. And there you go. So there's the back of this page. So this is page 1 of our album. We have the booklet on the front. We have the photo mats on the inside. And then when you turn the page, you're going to have your waterfall. Okay, so that's page 1 all complete. All right, page 2 is going to be made exactly the same as for page 4. So I'm going to make, you'll make 2 of these all together. They will have different interactions on the fronts and the backs though, so beware of that, but the actual base page will be made the same. So you will need 2 pieces of the cardstock, 10.5 by 7, and we're going to score, wrong one, at 5 and at 10. Okay, easy peasy. So again, 10.5 by 7, score at 5 and 10. Then what we'll do, again, fold and burnish and miter, do all those things, right? Fold and burnish and miter. So let's go ahead and do that. Like this, okay? Like this. Okay, and then we're going to just glue that shut and create a pocket. So we're just going to put glue on that 1/2 inch tab. All right. Glue that down. Okay, easy peasy. Easy peasy. Okay, so basically what we have now is a tube. All right, so then the next thing you're going to do, we're going to take our handy dandy template. I'm going to take our scissors. I'm going to whack those corners. Okay. All right. Then what you're going to do, and this probably would have been a little bit easier to do before I glued it down, but what we're going to do is where on the inside, where this point is here on these 2 sides, we're going to put glue in this whole entire kind of 1/2 inch area. Okay, so I'm just going to run that across. I hope that makes sense. Let's see if I can try and get it in camera so you can see. But I want to glue that. Let me see if I can show you. I want to glue all of that together. Okay, so between this point and this point, this whole area up in here. Okay, so I added glue to kind of close that off. Okay, and that way, the reason why is because the insert that's going to go in here, I kind of don't want it to go past that point because it will stick out here, and I didn't want that, so I wanted to close that off. That's why we're doing that. Okay, all right, so we got that side done. Here's my front paper, and here's my back paper, so that's going to go on the back. So again, what I am going to do is I put it in place how I want it, make sure that the orientation is right, and then I'm going to take them off without turning them around. Okay, we're going to do that same thing, and I won't show you this every time. I just want to show you one more time that we're just going to use our template. We're going to line it up on the edges there, okay, and cut it. So remember that you have to scooch it every time you do that, okay? And that just, it makes the perfect cut because it has the same angle. You're cutting the same angle with this guy, okay? So this will be front, and this will be back, okay? So I'm gonna glue those down real quick. I'll be right back. So we have that done. Then we'll get our template back. We will grab our pencil again, and we're going to draw that circle. And I kind of color in that circle a little bit because it is easier for me to see. I don't know about you, but my eyes are getting old. So then I'm going to line that up, punch that out, and we have the page done. Okay, so let's talk the front of the page here. So on the front of page 1, what we're going to do is make an envelope. So we are going to need a piece of paper that is 7 by 7, and I'm going to use my envelope punch board here, and I'm going to grab this bone folder, and we're going to start punching at 3 1/8. Let me double check my measurements and make sure that that's right. Yes, 3 1/8. So I'm going to line that up with this edge at 3 1/8, punch, and then draw my, or score my line. Then I'm going to turn it. Now when you turn it, this point now, the next point will line up at 3 7/8. Okay, punch. And then it goes back to 3 1/8. Like so. Then this is 3 7/8. All right. Then we can use the corner rounder piece. Okay, we're making that little envelope. Let's get this out of the way. And we have our envelope. So let's just fold this up. This is using the 65-pound artisan cardstock. Okay, just fold my scores. Okay, because every Valentine album needs to have an envelope, right? That was my thought. So, make this envelope so all of my sides are folded up. And I'm going to just glue these down. So I'm going to just grab my glue. I'm going to put a little line of glue here and here. And then I'm going to put a little line here on the outer edge and here. And I'm not going to go down that straight side. I'm just going to go up the diagonal here, but I'm not going all the way to the top because when we fold it up, that doesn't, let me get this. It will glue the tab to the back of your envelope if you go too high, okay? So I don't want to do that. All right, so now we have my envelope, and that is all done. And then what I want to do with this is take and put it on my piece here, and I'm going to kind of center it again if I'm looking at it between those 2 points there. So I want it kind of close to the bottom, and I want to kind of center it between those 2 points. So if I look at the edge of my tag here, it goes about a 1/2 inch in, and then I'm going to go about maybe 1/8 of an inch up, okay? And then I'm going to glue it on 3 sides because I want to create a pocket behind the envelope. Okay, so again, I'm going to go about a 1/2 inch in, and I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch or so up, because I just want to have a little bit more room at the top for what I'm putting in behind there. Okay. Okay. So here's the plan. I took 4 cut aparts of my choosing. Okay. And I want to put them 2. I used 4 altogether. I'm going to put 2 in the top there, and then I'm going to take 2 and put them in the envelope. And then to keep that envelope closed, I received the ephemera pieces from the collection, okay? So I'm going to cut these nubbins off, though, because they're going to bother me if I don't. And then one thing, I don't know if it was just my pack or what, some of these cut aparts were cut a little off. So like you see some of the white around, like the die didn't quite match the print. So you might have to trim some of those off. Some of them I have had to, and some of them I hadn't. So it's just kind of a hit or miss. So we're going to use that as the closure, and this is going to tuck in behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put some glue kind of like right around there. Okay. I'm going to line that up. Kind of eyeball center it and glue that down. And then what that will do is give me a little tuck place so that I can tuck the top of that envelope down. Okay. So I'm going to leave that loose while that glues here real quick. And then we'll go back to it in just a second. So then on the back side of this, we are going to create some diagonal pockets. So let me show you how I did that, because we're going to have a diagonal pocket on the back of page 2, and then we're also going to have one on the front of page 3. So to make the triangle pockets, you really would need a non-directional paper. So that's why I chose this pink paper, okay? So I could cut it right into a diagonal, okay? So this, we'll start with the mat. So I did get a piece of the gold tonic paper from my collection, from the design tea package. And I cut it at 4.5 by 4.5, okay? So I made a square, and then I just cut it at the angle, and then if you turn it like this, you have another pocket, right? So then I took this piece of pattern paper, and this piece measures 4.25 by 4.25, and then I cut it at the diagonal. Boom, you have the 2 pockets, okay? So when you do that, it should line up pretty good to give you a pretty nice gold border. Okay, so that's how I did that. I'm going to put this off to the side for the front of page 3. So let's glue this down. So glue on here. All right. Like so. Again, I'm trying to wipe it up. I don't want it to be on this gold. I'm trying to make sure I get that all off. Okay. I think I did. Okay. And then this pocket is just going to glue to the back of page 2, and it's going to go in the corner like so. Okay. So again, I'm going in about 1/8 of an inch or so, and I'm just going to glue on the 2 sides to create that pocket. And this paper, the way I cut it, it's kind of lining up to the edge of the stamps there, so that's giving me a nice straight line to kind of go by. Okay. Okay. All right. And then I picked 2 cut aparts, the 3x4s, and those are going to go in that pocket. Okay. So in the front, we have the envelope with 2 cut aparts inside, 2 cut aparts in the back, and then we're going to have this cute little tuck closure to keep the envelope closed, because every Valentine needs to have an envelope, right? Okay, so the insert is super simple. We're going to take a piece of, and you'll make 2 of these inserts as well for the other page, 8.5 by 6.25. We're going to score, wrong one. I'm going to use the metal one, and again, do a couple passes, score at 4.25. Okay. Oops. Like that. Okay. And then, okay, we're going to fold and burnish. No trimming or cutting or anything. And then what we're going to need to do is we're going to take a 6x4 cut apart and put it on the front. And then we're going to take a 6x4 piece of pattern paper, put it on the back. Okay. And then on the inside, we will have photo mats, again, out of the black, that are 6x4. Okay. And that's how that's going to go. So I'm not going to glue those down yet. I will go ahead and just put those in the pocket, but that's what's going to go in the side pocket. So we're going to make another one of those for page 4, and that's how that's going to go. So it will stick out just a little bit, which is what we want, and it will work out really, really well. Okay, so page 2, done. All right, so front of page 3 is done exactly the same, although opposite as the back of page 2. So when you open up your album, it's going to look like this. So you'll have the 2 pockets. This is pretty much the only page that does repeat like that. So I just went ahead and finished that pocket. We already talked about that. Used the other side, and you know, I just didn't want to waste that beautiful triangle of the gold, because isn't that just pretty? And then I put 2 more cut aparts in there. So I used these 2, and we'll just pop those in there. And then again, I've already put the pattern paper on. I've already punched the holes. We got to work on the back of page 3. So we're going to do a really cute little trifold. It's really simple. You just need 1 piece of cardstock, and this cardstock is 6 by 12. Okay, so you just need 1 piece of cardstock that is 6 by 12. We're going to score on the 12 at 4 and at 8. And again, remember, I have already pre-scored everything, so I'm just going to make 1 pass. So then again, trifold. Okay, so we're going to fold this up, we're going to fold this down, and then I'm going to burnish, and then that'll help kind of seat the pages in the scores. Works pretty good. Okay, so you'll have your trifold. Once you fold it, it'll open like that and then like that. We're going to put the ribbon on the back, and we're going to have it tie over the top. Okay, so I'm just going to put some score tape right at that 3-inch mark. I've got it on my grid here. Okay, so then we're going to grab the ribbon, this gorgeous 1/8 inch ribbon, and I'm just going to, again, just try and get it as centered as I can. And I will trim these later after I tie the bows and everything. But then that will go over the top and close like that. Okay, so then for the cover, I did cut a piece of gold that is 5 3/4 by 3 3/4, and then I did trim one of the 6 by 4 cut aparts, and I trimmed it to 5 1/2 by 3 1/2, and then that way it goes in 1/4 inch all the way around. So that will glue to the front like so. And then, so you open that up here, we're going to have photo mats. All right, so we shall have, let's see, 1, 2 here. We're going to open it up, put a 3rd here, and then I've got a piece of pattern paper that I'm going to put right in the middle there to kind of break up all that black, so you still have lots of room for photos. And again, all of these are cut at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, so I'm just going to fold this up for now because I can glue those down later. Okay, and I'm going to tie a little bow to kind of keep it all secured, and then we're just going to glue this onto the back of that page. Okay, so that will be how it will look eventually when it gets all glued down. Okay, so back of page 3, I'm going to turn this over. We're going to put glue. And then what I'm going to do is, because it is kind of bigger, I'm going to center it top to bottom, and I'm going to go about 1/8 inch in from the outer edge there and lay that down. Okay, and that's how I'm going to do that. Now we probably should open this up and just make sure that it's nice and burnished down. I will glue all the rest of this down later, but we'll fold that up. I just wanted to show you how this is all going to fit together before I, while I was doing this time. I hope this is helpful. If it's not, I'm sorry. I'm trying. But I just got really excited when I was doing this tutorial, and I just cut out all the papers, which sometimes I don't do ahead of time. Sometimes I just cut out the bases, all the cardstock and stuff, and then, you know, I decorate it later and pick my pattern papers later. But this time I didn't do that. I cut it all at the same time because I just got so excited. All right, so that's the back of page 3. So that is done. Let's grab page 4. This is page 4, and I put the pattern papers on. I punched my hole. So this is what the front will look like. This is what the back will look like. And I have the insert, because this is one of the side opening pages, already done. So I chose this 6x4 cut apart. And we have the 2 photo mats in. So I already glued those down because we already talked about those on the other page, right? So that will be inside the pocket right here. Okay, so I'm gonna just put this off to the side for just a second to reduce the bulk, and let's talk about the front of the page. We're gonna do a pull waterfall. For this pull waterfall, we're going to have a piece that is 9.5 by 4. We're gonna put it with the 9.5 at the top. We're gonna score at 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5. All right. And then we're going to take this piece here, which is going to be kind of the wrap that the first piece slides through. And we're going to do something a little bit different with it. So we're going to put it, it's 8 5/8 by 2. We're going to put it with the 8 5/8 at the top. We're going to score at 1/2. And then we're going to scooch this paper over before we do the next score. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it over about 1/16 of an inch, which is going to put this first score in between 1/2 inch and 5/8. And then we're going to move over here and we're going to score at 4 5/8. Okay. And what that's going to do is give us just a wee bit more room so that this piece will slide through just a little bit nicer. I hope that makes sense. So we're just going to give it a little, like 1/16 of an inch more room to move. Okay. So fold and burnish. Okay, no need to miter anything. We're just going to fold and burnish. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take this piece, and this is the 5-inch piece here. This is going to fold and be the back of this mechanism. All right, so you're going to have, make sure it's lined up nice. You're going to have a 1/2 inch here, which is going to be the pull. Okay, so burnish all of the score lines. Like so. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this, and this will hold 4 pages right now. Okay, now this piece here is going to glue to the back of this piece right here. This piece will slide around it, and we're going to glue it around just like that. So that's why I wanted it a little bit wider, so that when you glue it down, it slides nice. If we score it too close, then it's not going to score, or it's not going to slide really nice. Okay, so I'm going to take this off. Okay, so here's our piece. We got our 5-inch piece here. We got the 3x4 piece here. We're going to turn this over, and we're going to glue this back piece to the back of this 3x4 piece. Okay, now we're going to go right to the edge, and we're going to make sure that there will be a little bit hanging off from the top and the bottom. Okay, so it's not going to be like right at the edge. It's going to go over just a wee bit. Okay, you can see that. Okay, we're going to fold this piece over. So the 5-inch is folded down. Like I said, it's going to go right here. Okay, then this piece is going to wrap around and get glued. Okay, and I am going to glue the tab to the outside because I don't want anything impinging inside that little wrap. Okay, So when you have that, if you hold the ends like I'm holding, then this should slide pretty easy, okay? Like so, all right? So then what you're gonna do is we are going to start gluing our pieces down. So we have, and actually, probably should have done that first, but we're gonna fold this all the way up. I do have a piece of paper that I'm gonna tuck in here and glue down, and that's going to be just right there, and it will go inside underneath that just a little bit, okay? So we're gonna do my little, you know, like pocket trick here. Now I should tell you the size of this. The pattern paper is 4 by 3 7/8, okay? So we're gonna do that pocket trick here. So I tuck mine underneath in my pockets, or underneath there, like that. Then I hold it down and I kind of flip it up, and then I put the glue on. Because if I try to put glue on this paper and then slide it in, I make a horrible mess. And it will not untuck. It will not. It goes over there, under there. It goes under there quite nicely, and it will not untuck, okay? All right, so that's that back of the pull panel, okay? So we're just gonna push that all back in place, okay? And then we're gonna glue our pieces down. Now I picked 4 cut aparts that I liked, okay? And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this pink one on the top and have the whiter ones down below. These are all 3 by 4, and I can see I didn't quite get this line off, so I'm going to trim that up, or that's going to bug me. So I just goofed up and I glued the wrong one down. So this one is going to go on the top. So let's save that off to the side. I was able to take it up before I ruined everything. So I'm going to put this one down first, okay? So since I wanted the pink on the top, we got to start kind of bottom up, okay? So I'm going to glue this one down. We're going to go right to the score line and glue it right over the top of that, okay? And these are 3 by 4. All right, we're going to take our second one. Now the second one will glue just to this 1/2 inch here. So I'm going to put glue on this 1/2 inch. And butt it right up against that score, but not into the score, okay? Because I want it to be able to turn properly. Okay, so when you see this and you pull it, that's how it's going to open, okay? All right. The next one, we're going to repeat the process. So just try to not, you know, make sure that you don't get a lot of glue on here. You don't want it gluing things shut. We want to make sure that this moves properly. Make sure everything's lined up. And then you can also push that open, or pull it open, I should say. And then, yeah, make sure everything's good. We can do it again. Okay. Like that. I hope this makes sense. All right, guys, I had a major malfunction here on this, and you guys know that because I glued this down when I wasn't supposed to. So I went ahead and covered it with paper. When I went to do this, I realized that it wasn't opening properly, and I had cut this wrap too wide. So I had to do a little bit of paper surgery to fix it. And what I ended up doing was trimming this to 1 3/8 inch wide. And in order to do that, I had to kind of pull this back piece out ever so carefully, like so, and trim that up. So you guys have already not done that because I put the disclaimer in, but I just wanted to show you that. And what I also didn't get on camera was that I did choose a piece of coordinating pattern, or cardstock I should say, with this collection to cover the back of this cut apart, because I glued it in the wrong spot because I wanted the pink one on the top. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you. So this wrap again is only 1 3/8 inch wide. Everything else is the same, but then because of that, now this opens up way better. Okay. So I'm sorry about that. I apologize. If you have any further questions about this, let me know. Okay. Now when this gets glued down, we're going to glue it real close to that edge of the pocket, and the reason why we're doing that is so that when we do pull the mechanism, it doesn't interfere too much with the ring of the book, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're going to turn this over, and we're only going to put glue on the wrap, okay? So just put glue on that 1 3/8 inch piece. All right, and then I'm going to I'm gonna turn this so I can see it. I'm gonna put it about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of this page, and I'm just gonna center it top and bottom, so it's at about 1/2 an inch from the top and the bottom, and about 1/8 of an inch in, and we're just gonna glue that down just like that. Okay, and I apologize profusely, but nobody is perfect, and I'm definitely not perfect. So the next thing that what I'm going to do is I did take some of the red ribbon. I won't glue that down now because it'll kind of get in the way when I turn the paper over and work on the other side. But I did take a piece of this red sheer ribbon that I got from a design team package, and I just tied a very simple bow. I did put a little art glitter glue in the end so it wouldn't fray, and then this is going to set here, and then that's going to be kind of the pull. So if you can imagine, this is how this is going to open up, okay? Like so, okay? So it'll look just like that. Now it may, the ring might be in the way a little bit once it's bound, but you know, if you just help it along with your little fingers, that will, you know, help it close. I hope that makes sense. All right, so that'll go on later in the decoration phase. So that's that. We have the insert for the inside, which is going to go here, okay? And that is the front of page 4. So I hope that made sense, and I hope it wasn't super confusing for you. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, sometimes I surprise myself and I'm such a dork. All right, let's go to the back of page 4. Back of page 4, I chose this paper. We're gonna do a little explosion kind of piece, and you know me and my explosions, right? Okay, so you need a piece of paper that it has to have one side that is non-directional because of the way this is going to fold up. So I'm going to use this paper, but this side's going to be on the inside because once it opens, then it's going to be in the right direction that I want it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it. This is the outside of the piece, and I'm going to grab my bone folder here, and we're going to score. This is 9 by 9. We're going to score at 4.5, and then we're going to turn it again, score at 4.5. Okay. All right. So then that's the outside scores. Then we're going to want to do the diagonal score on the inside. So I'm going to turn this over, and here's what you're going to do. So one way to do a diagonal score when your paper is too big for that red score line that I put down my center here is put it back in your scoreboard, and you know where we did that score at 4.5, right? So you've got this score line up here. Center that at that 6 mark. That's why I have a red line down my 6, which I need to redo because it's a little bit faded, but that way I can see top and bottom where that 6-inch line is. And I'm going to put my little scoring tool right in the center where the 4.5 score here and the 4.5 score here meet, okay? Then I'm going to slide it down, keeping it in the channel of that 6-inch line, okay? I'm going to take this, I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and I'm going to line up that tip here, if I can do this without moving it, into that red, okay? And that is going to be my diagonal, and then I'm just going to score carefully up, okay? So there you go. And then you can go back to that center point, and you can move it down like so. Then you have the point. You move this up, trying to keep that in there here, okay? And you can score it down. I mean, that's how I do it. Now, if you want, you can just take a straight edge, and you have to have one long enough to go that distance, but you could take the straight edge and line it up with the points, and then you can use your bone folder or scoring tool that direction and do it that way. But this is the way I tend to do it. It just works for me. So that's what I did. So ultimately what you need on the front side, you need to score at 4.5, and then one here at 4.5. Then you turn it over, and then from the top right to the bottom left, you need a score on this side. And this is so that the scores go in the direction you want them to go, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this over and burnish that down. Where's my bone folder? It's in my little tray. You guys, if you've been following me, I got my little tray. I'm trying to keep all the tools that I'm using for a project in that tray so they're not all over my desk. I'm gonna fold it over here, make sure everything lines up. Okay, burnish. We're gonna open this up and we're gonna turn it around, and you've got that diagonal score. So we're gonna fold that over this way. This will make the explosion page, okay? So we'll start making sure, we gotta make sure we're lined up, okay? So I'm lining up those points over there, and we'll fold that down, okay? So then when you open this up, so this is gonna be the inside, these two will fold in like that, and then it'll squish down like that, and then you have your page, okay? Super easy peasy. I got glue hanging off my fingers. Okay, so there's that. So on the front of that, I am going to put this piece here with the gold and the 4x4 cut apart, okay? So the gold piece is 4.25 by 4.25. The cut apart is 4x4. And then you're going to need a couple of these photo mats. Now, I did keep these at 4x4, okay? And then what these are gonna do is these are gonna go on the inside here. You're gonna have a little bit more space, and then here. So this will open up on the page and explode like so, okay? So I'm gonna put those in, I'll glue those down later. I'll put those on and we will glue that down later. We need to put a tie on this to keep it closed. So we're gonna use that third piece of ribbon, and this is how this is going to open up, like so, right? So we're going to flip it over and we're gonna go horizontally across that. So I'm going to put this in my square, or put this on my grid. It's 4.5. The center of this will be at 2.25, okay? So you can either use your ruler or use your, you know, your grid. And I'm gonna grab some tape. Okay. Like so. Here's our other piece of ribbon. Again, I'm going to find the center. Okay. Like so. Okay. And that is what's going to be on here. Okay. So that'll go like that. Then this will tie around. I'll glue those down later. All right, and then this will glue here. All right, now I am going to kind of try to center it. Let me take this out for bulk between these two again. All right, so it will go at about 3/4 of an inch in from the side, okay? And about 1/4 of an inch top and bottom. So glue. And the beauty of using pattern paper for this is that you don't have to do a ton of matting. You can add those photo mats with the black as an accent, and then you've got everything's pretty much decorated. All right, so I'm using my mat, going 3/4 of an inch in, about 1/4 of an inch top and bottom, and there you go. Okay, I will glue all that down later. That will be our explosion element. It's not an explosion box, but it is an explosion element, right? Okay, so if we undo this, and I know I'm making it super confusing, and I'm sorry. I was really hoping that I was going to make this super simple, but I feel like I've just made it more complicated than it has to be. Okay, so we're going to put our photo mats in there. I'll glue those down later. We're going to put this guy here, and I will glue that down later. And we're going to tie this up, and that is the end of page 4. And then we shall do page 5. And we got our insert here. So that's going to go in our page pocket right there. And then we have our waterfall. We'll have a little bow there. That'll be super cute. And then we have our explosion. Okay, so let's grab page 5. All right, so page 5 is the same as page 1 as far as construction. So we're going to have that flip. Okay, I did put pattern paper on the inside, and again I chose some scraps that had some more solid colors, kind of like the inside of page 1, and then I did add photo mats, and instead of I used pink on the other one, the pink coordinating cardstock. I used the yellow, the goldish color on this one, and put the black photo mats in there. Okay, so the front of this is going to have a pocket. So what I ended up doing was I cut a piece of paper, excuse me, that was 7 across by 3.5. This is going to be a glued pocket. So it's just going to glue on to the front. That's all we're going to do. But before we do that, we have to cover some stuff with pattern paper. So I did go through my scraps, and I found this piece. This piece is 2 1/4 by 6 7/8. And then I did use my little template to cut the corner. Okay, so we're going to lay that down first. And again, I got super excited and I punched holes, and I was like, I didn't need to punch holes yet. I got to wait till the pattern paper's on there. So yeah, I was a little bit excited, but it's going to work. I can re-punch the holes because they're going to get covered up anyway with pattern paper. All right, so I'm going to lay that down first, that little piece. Okay. And then we have this piece. So again, that was 7 by 3.5, right? And that's going to just glue on the 3 sides. Okay. Actually 4 if you count that corner. All right. I'm just going to lay that down right over the top of that. Okay. You can open that up. That'll also help with burnishing that down. Okay. Okay. And then I cut this piece of pattern paper to fit. So this is 6 7/8 by 3 3/8. And again, I used the template to cut the corner. And we'll cover that. Okay. Okay. And then that is done. Okay. So it's just a simple glued pocket. All right. So when we get done and we punch the holes, it'll be ready to go. But before, when we punch the holes, I'll take these out because I want to make sure that I don't punch through them. But we're going to put this cut apart in here. And I can't remember if I trimmed it or not. I didn't. I left it at 6 by 4. Okay, so that'll just pop right into this pocket. And then I have 2 4 by 4s that I want to pop in the pocket as well. So we have those in there. Okay, so then on the back, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little belly band. Okay, so before we put the pattern paper down on that, we need to make our belly band. So we have a piece of cardstock here. This is 6 inches by 1.5. We're going to put this in our scoreboard with the 6 inches at the top. We're going to score at half and at 5.5. Okay. And then fold and burnish. Okay. And then I'm going to open this up just because it's getting a little bit bulky now. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to center it between this point and this point. So it will, you know, am I going to do that? Yeah, I'm going to center it between that point and that point. It's going to look better to me visually. So when I do that, if I get my ruler out here, so 3 inches, so this will be 3/4 of an inch from the center point, okay? So I'm not going to go ahead and miter that. I don't think you need to, since it's right smack dab in the middle of the page. All right, I'm just going to do one at a time, just because that's how I do it most of the time. Okay. Make sure that's burnished really well, and then that'll just lay down. We'll put our glue and that'll just lay down. Like so. All right. There we go. Like so. Okay. Belly band is on. So pattern paper for that page is going to be the love bugs again. So again, I'm going to get my little template. This template has worked out really well because seriously, once you measure it, and since I used chipboard, it's real sturdy. And I can save this, and the next acrylic album that I get, I've already got a template for it. So I'm pretty excited about that. All right, so that will pop underneath here like that, cover those tabs, and glue down, and it will look like that. So I'm just gonna put that in there. Put my glue on. Double checking that I'm still taping because I had a goof earlier. Yikes. Can't believe that. Ay, ay, ay. Now I've already got another idea. I did not use a lot of paper for this. I have more left. So I used about half of what I got in my design team package. And so I've got another idea that I want to get out pretty quick so you have time to do it before February starts. So I'm going to try like crazy to get that done. I think you're going to like it. I'll give you a little teaser. It's a 14 days of Halloween idea. And I want to do that. I want to get it done. All right. So 14 days of Halloween. You guys, oh my God. Ah, I said Halloween, didn't I? 14 days of Valentine's. Oh my goodness. I think I need a break. Okay, so this is done. So in this, we are going to put a couple things. So I took how was I going to do this? Oh, I know. Okay, so we're going to put a couple little things in here. So I took the cut-aparts and some of the leftover, the gold had the light pink, the coordinating cardstock, okay? So I've got a couple of these that are 6x4, and I cut down the 4x6 cut-aparts a little bit so that they are 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay, so I cut 1/8 of an inch off each side. So I'm going to have 2 of those. All right, and they will look like this. So I got one with the gold around it and one with the pink around it. And then when you turn it over, I'm going to put 2 little photo mats. I had 2 left that I had cut out, and these measure 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I did trim them down just a little bit, and those are going to go in the backs of those, and those are going to be inserts for in here. Okay, so those are going to go in there. So 2 inserts there. And then on the top of this, I really wanted to use this cut apart here, and I had some more of the gold mirror left. So I want to put that on the top of that. So what I'm going to do is just glue this down. Like so. That gold is bright when the light hits it. It just blinds me. But it's so pretty. So pretty. Okay. Okay. Like so. I'm going to take these out for just a second for bulk purposes. And then that is just going to glue right on the top. I'm just going to center that like that. Okay. So just like that. So did I give you the measurements? I want to make sure I give you the measurements. So the gold is 4 by 4. And I cut the cut apart down to 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. Okay. So that is just going to center right there. So I'm just going to put some glue just right down the center of this. I don't want to go too crazy because I don't want it to glue my piece shut. And I'm eyeballing it top and bottom. It'll be about a 1/2 inch top and bottom. Just center that on there. Okay. And that will be that. Okay. So let me take these out for just a sec. We're going to close this up. Front of the page 5 has the pocket. The back has the belly band. And then this will be one that opens up. So let's punch our hole. Let's make our little piece here. Find my pencil. Okay. I didn't color it in, but I think I can do it. Put that in here. Now again, if you don't have a heavy duty one, just do one side at a time. Use a regular hole punch. It will work. Okay. All right. So there you go. Our hole is punched. And then this is the page that's going to open. So we're going to take our scissors and I'm just going to cut straight. I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to cut past the hole. Okay. So you have that. Okay. All right. We'll put our piece back in. Excuse me. We're going to put our tags in our pockets. We're going to turn it around. I'll glue these down later. You will have seen all of the decorations and everything that I did in the walkthrough. So that's why I'm not doing it right now, because that video is available and you have already seen it. So there is that part. Okay. So you have your page and it opens up and you've got your little slit. Okay. So that's page 5. So let's talk covers. So I already have one of these with the backing taken off. So I'm going to just grab my little pokey tool here and I'm going to peel this off. So it's really super simple. Just go in the corner and just carefully kind of lift that corner enough. Try not to scratch that, but that's how you do it. And then it will peel right off. Okay. Okay, there's one side. Let's put this off to the side for a second. Here's my other one. Kind of blend into the desk, don't they? I love the fact that they're see-through, which makes it really fun with the albums too, because it kind of gives you a little sneaky peek of what's underneath that cover. And they're super thick, which is really cool. They're like an 1/8 inch thick. They're very nice. Not flimsy at all. Very sturdy. Okay, so we got our 2 pieces off here. So the reason why I wanted to kind of do this last is because, and I don't know if it's going to be easier to see it on that. Yeah, I think it is, because that was too dark. I'm going to take my front cover, okay? So I know I've got a lot of bulk going on here, but what I want to do is I'm going to put my cover like right over top of it. I chose this cut apart to be the front of my album, so you can see that what I'm thinking I'm doing here, what I'm wanting to do is I want to cover that up and kind of layer it over there as best as I possibly can to kind of cover that up. And then that way, when you open up the album, then you see this, okay? So I want to try to make sure that I do that. So I did cut kind of an extra layer, if you will, on this to make it a little bit wider to ensure that that gets all covered up, but I just want to place it properly. So I did use a cut apart that's 4x4. I cut the gold at 4¼ by 4¼ and then I cut a piece of the coordinating cardstock. I used the mint on the outside at 4½ by 4½. Now this one underneath it is only 4¼ by 4¼ so we have a little bit of wiggle room here. So I was doing a kind of an experiment with the acrylic, trying to see how to, you know, adhere things onto this. Art glitter glue worked amazing on acrylic, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to use art glitter glue and make sure that this stays on. So I'm not going to go too close to the edges here, but I've got my pages kind of lined up, and I'm going to eyeball this. And just set it right over the top of that. And I'm kind of looking around. It is overlapping everything, and it's going to cover that up. So you can see how pretty that is. All right, so then I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to make sure I'm just going to use my grid. And wow, I did pretty straight too. That's pretty cool. All right, so then I'm just going to burnish that down. Okay. I didn't want it too close. I don't want it a lot gluing, you know, seeping out the sides. And that's why I'm trying not to go too close to the edge. I don't want anything seeping out to the side, okay? But I did this on like a practice piece, a different piece of like acrylic that I had because I wanted to make sure it worked. But it works great. And when it glues, when it dries really nice. Let's just glue that down, okay? So that's going to be my front cover. This is going to go in the inside. I cut the pieces the exact same way, and these are the exact same size because you don't want to open your album and see that, right? So we're going to glue this right over top of that. So this is going to do a couple things. It's going to cover that up, okay? And it's going to give us a little journaling spot here. So you can write like a dedication to somebody. Could write a little, you know, to from on there, whatever you want to do. So again, I'm putting on my glue, and then I'm just going to put this right over top of that other image on the back side. And that is how I'm doing that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And it's going to be so pretty. Now, if it does seep out the bottom, just wipe it up as fast as you can so that we don't get it on our acrylic. We don't have glue smudges. And I think that's pretty good. Now, the back of this, I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do is use something else on the back. So we're not going to do anything to the back yet. You will have seen that in my walkthrough what I'm going to do, but that's what I wanted to do with the front. So now all we have to do is bind this thing. So with the acrylic albums, you have these rings, okay? This is going to be all there is to that. So I'm just going to grab all my pieces, and we're going to start like so. And I do have to go back and glue these pieces down. I know that, but I will. All right, so I'm just putting them in order. And then we'll go through. And that's it. And I love the fact that these rings are so huge because they can really fit a really nice, thick album, okay? So here is kind of the almost finished product, okay? So this is the album here. Now, the other thing I want to show you is the closure that we're going to do. because this will be a little wobbly and we don't want it wobbly, right? So I'm going to use this beautiful green ribbon here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to tie it around, and it's going to be a closure that will come off completely. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do for the closure is I'm taking this beautiful green satin ribbon that I've got and I'm cutting it in half. I want to make sure I have enough to tie that bow, but I have plenty to use for other projects. And then if I trim this up, then I have the leftovers of that too, right? Okay. So I'm just going to lay this down. This ribbon closure will come completely off. I'm not going to adhere it down. All right. And we are just going to tie a bow. And that is going to be our beautiful closure. Okay. That beautiful green bow. Oh my gosh. It's so cute. So I got it up a little high. We can put it more towards the end. And there you go. Okay, so I'm going to trim that up, but that's going to be the album. That's going to be the closure. There's enough give to make some space for adding pictures and stuff, but that's how it's going to be. So you can either just slide that off or untie it, okay? And then you have your album. So we have the cover. It says you have my whole heart for my whole life. And then you have like a dedication page here. And then you have this page here. And I'm going to have to be careful because this will be the booklet. And again, I'm going to glue all of those things down, but that's what you're going to have there. Lots of room for photos, you guys. This is going to be a fun album. I love how this turned out. Now, this is one that the page comes out. So you just simply pop it open. Like so, and then it just pops right on. So if you're familiar with like disc albums, that's kind of the same idea. But I did not want to cut an extra like little sliver out because I don't want to I want to make sure that it stays closed, but it's just, it works beautifully. And I did a prototype that I will share later that it worked great on. So I will show you that. So here you've got your waterfall, and again, I'm going to glue all this stuff down, but you're going to have this cute little heart paper here on the tab. So it'll look like that. Okay. And then I'll glue all these down, but you'll have your waterfall pages here. And then you have this cute little page with the envelope. You have cut aparts in here. You can write a little note in there. Okay. And that will just tuck underneath that little die cut. Then you have a pocket back here with 2 more of the journaling cards, and we're going to have a little photo booklet in the pocket. And let me get, because I am going to glue those down later, but get my fumble fingers working. So it'll look like so, and then the back will be that. So that'll be in here, in that side pocket, okay? Then you turn the page, you have the 2 corner pockets with your little cut aparts here. This is the trifold. I just really love you a lot, like that. So that'll open up, and then you'll have photo mat, and then you have the pattern paper in the middle. Lots of room for photos. And you know what? I ran out of my repositional tape. I should have used, or I should have got some. That's what I should have done. I don't have any repositional tape. So that's why everything's flopping around right now, but I will glue those down, okay? So then you have your little pull tab waterfall. That's gonna have a little heart there, and then that'll open like so. And then you may have to just kind of help move it because of the ring, but it will work just fine. And then you have this pocket here in this page, and this one I had already glued down, but that's what the other one will look like as well. And that goes in this pocket. And then you turn this page, and this is our explosion page, okay? And this will, little heart will explode this way. And you'll have more room for photos. So I think this is just adorable. And then, you know, you don't have to put photos in all of these black pages either. You can get your white writing pen and you can do some journaling in white on those black photo mats. But I think the black worked really well for this. You've got a pocket here again. I'm going to decorate some more. So you've seen the walkthrough, the full walkthrough, but we have all of this in that pocket, and you could definitely fit more. And then this page, you have your belly band, and this will have 2 photo mats. So we're going to use the journaling cards on the front, and then you're going to use this on the back. Okay. Again, I will glue those down. Okay, and then you have your back cover, and I haven't quite decided how I'm going to decorate the back cover yet, but again, you will have seen that in the walkthrough. Okay. All right, you guys, that's the end of my tutorial. Again, I have to decorate and everything, but you have already seen that because you've seen my walkthrough. If you haven't, check down below in the links, and you can get the haul video, which has links to all of the products that I used, and then you can also get the walkthrough video for this album that I have all finished and decorated and ready to go. So thank you so much for watching. Do go get this acrylic tag album. You will not be sorry. It is really amazing. And I will see you again soon with more fun tutorials, okay? Stay crafty. If you have any questions, let me know. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.